Welcome to Charity Therapy, the podcast where we explore the ups and downs of the nonprofit sector and answer your burning questions. I'm your host, Jess Birken, owner of Birken Law Office, and I'm excited you're here. Imagine hanging out with me and my super smart, funny nonprofit expert pals. You get to ask them anything about your nitty-gritty nonprofit life and get their wisdom for free. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just strapping on your nonprofit boots, we're here to share stories and remind you you're not alone on this journey. So get ready to join the conversation and bring me the tough questions. I ain't scared. Ready to rock? Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to this episode of Charity Therapy. I am back with my co-host Meghan, and I have lost my sense of object permanence.
Hello. Also, we're talking about something that's existing on a screen. So the idea of object permanence applying to a script on a screen feels questionable to me. It literally is not a 3D object in space. Our brains don't know what to do with that.
I have lost my mind. I have lost my ability to scroll. I've lost my ability to introduce my own podcast. What day is it? What time is it? What year is it? Somebody give me a Flux Capacitor. I need to go back to 1968 for the dance.
Exactly. That's exactly what the vibe is today.
That was a Back to the Future reference for those of you who don't know.
Yes, very important.
Okay. I do not think it was 68, though.
I don't know. I should know.
I think it was like late 50s.
Yeah.
We should know. We really should Google this.
Yeah. Are we gonna? Probably not.
Anyway, what we should do is probably talk about nonprofit stuff.
Yeah, that's why you're here and also why we're here. So let's do that. So Jess, I have obviously a listener question for you, as we do. But before we do that, I do have a question for you so you can tell us all how it works. So we work with a lot of folks who have lost their tax exempt status along the way. And usually that happens because they are not filing their required filings. So tell me what that looks like. How does that actually happen?
Yeah, so every year since 2009, every nonprofit is supposed to be filing a 990. It's an information return. You send it to the IRS. It gives information about your nonprofit, and it's public record, and it's a small requirement in exchange for income tax exemption. If you don't file your 990 in the first year, nothing bad will happen. If you don't file it for 2 years, nothing bad will happen. But on the third, it's 3 strikes and you're out. On the third time that you don't file your 990, the IRS computer system will notice there is nothing filed for this organization 3 times in a row, and they will revoke your status. It's called auto revocation, automatic revocation. There's nobody, it's not like somebody decides, there's nothing to like appeal generally. It just is the computer kicks it out and you're done. And then you have to reapply.
Yes. And in theory, there are other ways you can lose your tax exempt status, but this is the most common one that we see for sure.
Well, I mean, you could have the IRS take it away,
like
because you're subject to some sort of investigation. That's certainly a punishment that they have open to them. But like, we rarely see that. It's much more common that you're just auto revoked for not filing.
Yes. Okay. So, shocking no one, we're going to talk about some more revocation things with this listener question. So, I'm going to jump right into it. I just joined a board about 3 months ago, and today I found out that their 501c3 was revoked last year due to not filing their taxes last year. A board member is working with the person who was supposed to be handling this, but they have yet to provide any update for us. We have a community cleanup event coming up where we're partnering with a different community organization, and I'm really worried about this. Can we still do this event without our status? Are we opened up to more liability? Do we need to have different insurance? Help.
Okay. In our last episode, we were talking about Uncle Larry, and I feel like Uncle Larry's got another job. A board member is working with the person who was supposed to be handling this, but they have yet to provide any updates.
This being filing their 990s and dealing with the revoked status.
They don't say this, but it smells very much like an Uncle Larry was going to do our 990 for free. And if you know any public accountants, they are all dying since 2020. Every CPA, an accountant, or EA I know is dead.
Yes.
I mean, they are so tired.
Overworked.
And guess when most nonprofit tax filings are due? May 15th. Does that sound like a good time to be preparing your nonprofit's filing 30 days after regular tax preparation is done? No. So the reading between the lines here is that they've got somebody who volunteered to do this, and it's their absolute last priority. They probably forgot to do it, and the board is not really paying attention, not following up, not making sure it happens. And the listener says they got revoked last year for missing a year. But as we just discussed,
Yeah.
I happen to know that they did not file for 3 years in a row. So this is a little bit of a bigger problem than one 990 is not prepared yet.
Right. If there really was just one 990 filed or filing missing, nothing, they wouldn't have been revoked. They could file that back 990 and continue on. Like
Yeah,
that.
you get revoked on the third try, on the third time. So they have not had their poop in a group, as it were, for 3 years. And now they're auto revoked. Probably they sent a message to Uncle Larry or whoever was volunteering to do this to say, where are we at? We got an auto revocation. And now that person is going, uh-oh.
Oh, shoot.
I messed up.
Yep. But really, we've said this on other podcast episodes before. Sure, Uncle Larry messed up, but really the board has messed up because it is the
100%.
board's responsibility to make sure that this gets filed. There is no such thing as delegating it to one person to handle all of this and everybody else's hands are clean. Everybody needs to know that this is a required annual filing and that it gets done. So if the person who's in charge of working with Uncle Larry never gives a report, it's up to the board to be like, hey, what's going on with that? I think we need to do that.
Yeah. Just because you delegated something doesn't mean it's not still your responsibility. Like if you've ever been a manager, you delegate things to your team, and when it gets screwed up, who's the person responsible? You are.
Yep.
That's how boards work too. You can't just be like, oh yeah, we gave that to the accountant.
Yep.
It's done. No, you need to actually review it before it gets filed, talk to them, do your due diligence, understand what's going on, and then follow up and be like, we need proof of filing. That would be the appropriate flow of events. So let's get into their actual concern, which is the community cleanup event that's about to happen, where I assume this is some kind of fundraiser. I mean, it's hard to tell, but it feels like maybe it's got some fundraising element. We're cleaning up with volunteers, maybe picking up trash. Maybe there's some sort of fundraising that's going to happen along with this event. If there's no fundraising and it's just volunteers doing stuff, great. But as far as receiving donations, right now, this organization is no longer tax exempt. You cannot continue to say, we are a 501c3, I'm assuming. You can't say that because you don't actually have that status. The IRS took it away. So can you do the event without our status is the question. And I don't know because I don't have enough information. If it's volunteers are just doing something, we're all going to wear bright orange vests and carry garbage bags and walk the side of the road in the spring and clean up the roads. No donations will be requested. Go ahead. If this is some sort of fundraiser and you're seeking donations, or maybe people are like, however many miles we clean up, you're going to match my effort with a donation of $1 per mile or something, like, okay, like now we're starting to have a little bit of a problem because those donations are at risk, right? And that starts to lead into, are you even allowed to solicit donations based on your state law? Because you're no longer a C3, you can't hold yourself out as one. Are you out of compliance with your state attorney general's office too? So I don't know if you can have the event. It kind of depends on what's going on. Then the listener says, are we open to more liability? Well, from a compliance perspective, yes. Like, you're supposed to take care of this. The board is supposed to make sure all of this is done right. Are we open to more liability? I mean, that's kind of it's a weird way to frame that. I think the lawyer answer is the organization has risk right now because it's lost its tax status, and that could affect our fundraising. Is the event more risky? No. And the same amount of risk. Let's just assume it's community cleanup and everybody's carrying a garbage bag. I think we can all picture that. There's no additional risk as far as the activity is the activity. If people are walking along the side of the road, there's a risk they're going to get run over by a bus on the road. That risk is the same whether you have income tax exemption or no income tax exemption. If your volunteers do something wrong and they get sued, if your state provides volunteer immunity, they're still volunteers. You're still a nonprofit corporation. So the liability for the event is pretty much the same. It's just that your ability to fundraise and stay in compliance with the government agencies who bless your activities is in jeopardy right now. So it's not really a question of more liability. Well, if your board doesn't do anything, they could be liable, I guess. Is that where you're going?
No, I was just going to say that I think this really underscores common misconception about nonprofits. And reading between the lines, I have a feeling this listener has this question that a nonprofit is its tax exempt status. That, if you don't
Yeah.
have C3 status, every single thing grinds to a halt. Everything that was in place before is now null and void. All of our insurance is canceled. We are not allowed to have this money that we already have in the bank. All of our activities have to stop because we are no longer a nonprofit. And it's
That's great perspective.
and I think that it's important to kind of pull out what you were already saying, but in very direct terms, the nonprofit still exists. You still have your board, you still have your insurance policies, you still have all of these things. It changes the way that you can fundraise, and it changes the way that you have to communicate to your constituents and everything else. But it doesn't mean that you just don't exist anymore.
Yeah, maybe the easiest way for people to wrap their brains around this is the 501c3 is a tax filing status. It's not your right to exist. There are nonprofits that exist and pay taxes. You're a corporation, you exist in your state. When you file your personal taxes, you file as single or married or head of household, right? Those are tax filing statuses that affect what your tax rate is. The 501c3 status is the equivalent of you used to file as married, then you got divorced, and now you file as single, and you no longer get certain deductions that married people get. So you were filing as a C3, and now theoretically, your organization would pay tax because you don't have that status anymore. Now, I'm not saying you should do that. You should reapply and get your status back. So I'm not sure that the IRS will even understand how to process your return, and you may not owe any taxes in the first place if you tried to pay them. But you lost your status with the IRS. You just need to apply to get that label. It's just a label. It's just are you married filing jointly? Are you married filing separately? Are you a 501c3? Are you a 501c6? Which one are you filing as? And you just need to get your label back.
Yeah, it's the label matters. It's just not everything. And I think that because it is often a smaller organization that is a little bit flying by the seat of its pants that loses its tax exemption in this way, there is not only, a lack of understanding about what that C3 status actually is, but also when the C3 status goes, it's likely that other things may have also fallen by the wayside.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really easy to just be
100%.
Everything is null and void, everything is bad, everything is falling apart, and it might all be falling apart. I don't know what else is going on in your organization, but the C3 status itself is not necessarily the cause of all of these problems, So it's just sort of this is one element, it's an important element, but it's not the only element.
Right. So they're oh, do we need different insurance now? No,
But like,
I don't
hopefully
think
you
so.
already had insurance to cover this event.
Well, right.
Maybe you didn't
Like,
though,
I don't
and
know.
then yeah, you are at risk, but that would have been true
Yeah.
regardless of your C3 status.
Yeah. To your point, Megan, you might want to check your insurance policies because are they lapsed?
Right.
Because this is usually a canary in the coal mine. You're so right that, like, if this goes, usually we start peeling the onion and it's like, oh, and the corporation has been administratively dissolved and hasn't had, oh, and we aren't registered with the Attorney General for fundraising. Oh, and our work comp policy lapsed and we're flying blind. Like, there's probably other things that are not in place, but losing your tax exempt status doesn't make you need insurance that's different.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what did we learn here today?
I've got a few. So first, your tax status, whether it's 501c3 or something else, does not make you a nonprofit or not. It's not the only thing that makes you exist. So when there are changes or revocations to a tax status, there is still a nonprofit that exists, and it is now the name of the game is getting that label back. So it's important to understand what your status really is. Secondly, nonprofits sometimes have their IRS status revoked because they do not file their 990s 3 years in a row. That is the most common situation when a nonprofit loses its status and something that we see somewhat frequently. So, if you are looking at coming up on year 3 of not filing, now is your time to get that handled before you are automatically revoked. And lastly, I think the big one is that delegation does not absolve you from your responsibility to the organization. If you, as a board member, have fiduciary duties, that means that you are responsible for making sure these filings get done, even if, your board president's sister is an accountant who's going to do it for free on the side, and we've already handed it off to her. Like, great, it's your responsibility to make sure that you follow up and that it actually got filed. So delegation is great, but does not mean that you have no responsibilities towards the nonprofit.
Yeah. I would just add, like, try not to beat yourself up. Like,
Yes.
we see this so many times with small nonprofits. Like, it happens. Nobody joins an organization because they're really excited about compliance. Like, you're doing your best. You've figured out that this was a problem and now you're going to fix it. Focus on that. Don't kill yourself. You just, like, go forward. Do better for next time. It's going to be a little painful and annoying to fix everything, and just use that to make systems that this doesn't happen again, but try not to, like, beat yourself up too much.
Yeah, this is just proof that running a nonprofit isn't easy. And so you are not alone in this.
That's right. That's right. Well, folks, if you want to be not alone in this, what you could do is share this episode with your friends and talk about it. Maybe you should even have a charity therapy podcast
Like
club.
listening parties.
Is that a thing?
We can just like
listening
have
party.
a little...
Look at you with your correct vocabulary.
I made that up. I don't know if that's a thing, but
no, I think that's a thing. That's definitely a thing. If you liked it, give us 5 stars, subscribe, click all the buttons. Thank you so much. And as always, thank you for listening to the end. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.